Welcome to Season 2 of the Soar podcast, the place for creative entrepreneurs who want to build healthier, happier, more profitable self-employed businesses. I'm your host, Hyde Cornell, business mentor at Chiron Consulting and CEO and senior copywriter at Cornell Content Marketing. Get ready to soar.
This is a podcast takeover.
Welcome to the Soar podcast. I may sound a little different because this is not Hyde Cornell. This is Chelsea Greenway, and this is a podcast takeover. And I will be your host today with our guest, the amazing, the incredible Hyde Cornell. Hi, Ray.
Hey, Chels.
How's it going?
Great. Very good. It's interesting to be on the other side of this. Normally I'm doing the introduction and normally I'm getting into question mode. And now I'm like, what do I do with myself? I'm just sitting here waiting for questions. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, this is my first time hosting a podcast. So I have to apologize to your listeners in advance, just in case I mess up a little bit here and there. But for all the listeners that don't already know, I figured we'd get started with a little bit about your amazing background. So how did it all start with your freelancing business and freelance writing, and then getting into Chiron and coaching clients and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's a bit of a long story. I won't go into all the details because if you really want all the details, you can listen to episode 1 of the podcast that I did like way back, very beginning, episode 1, or you can read my chapter Corporate Dropouts. But basically, I got into freelance writing as a means of survival. It was kind of a natural skill I had to write, and I started having people pay me to write because I couldn't hold down any other job. I was in undergrad and I was dealing with really bad PTSD, and there was this whole thing that happened on campus, and I was assaulted, and the guy who did it was still on campus and kind of terrorizing me. And so I kind of felt trapped in my dorm room. Also because of all of the just psychological mental health stuff that was going on, I slept a lot, and I couldn't, if I had a shift, I couldn't show up at 8 a.m. I couldn't show up at 9 a.m. I would just sleep through every alarm. My roommate hated me because I would set like 5 or 6 alarms, not wake up to any of them. And she was a track runner. And so she would be up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and then she'd come back and she'd have a nap, and I'd wake her up with all my alarms. And it was just, I was having trouble functioning. And so freelance writing was a way for me to function, to provide for myself, to have income, to pay for school, pay for living expenses, do all these things, because I couldn't fit into what society said that you should be able to do, which is show up to an office and look appropriate and, work from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever it was. So that's really how it all got started. And that was way back in 2007, which, I mean, that doesn't sound like that long ago when I say the year, but then I do the math and I'm like, holy shit, that was 15 years ago. And so over time, my business was growing to the point where I couldn't handle the volume. And so I was like, okay, I need to bring on another writer. I need to show this writer how I do what I do and what specifically we do for these clients that makes them happy. And then they can help me handle the volume. And so I did that. And over time, I just kind of naturally fell into this mentoring role with some of the writers on my team. And I loved that work. And people started asking me questions about business building. And, I was in a mastermind where I would always answer everyone's questions about pricing and how to get clients and what should I do in this situation, And it just kind of came naturally to me because of my 15 years of experience. And so I decided to separate that out into a completely different business, which is Chiron. So I still run my freelance writing business, which is now a full service content marketing agency. And I have Chiron Consulting, which is where I teach people how to build a healthy, happy, profitable freelance business on their own terms.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And Chiron Consulting is amazing, I can say, because I first found you as a client of Chiron Consulting. And so you've helped me with a lot of of my own things that I had to work through in order to build my own business. So, what has inspired you through your journey at the beginning? And then has that changed now? And if it has, what inspires you now to continue working towards like your end goals and growing your businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I first started, it was about independence. It was, I can't do things the way that everybody else wants me to, or I don't want to do things the way everybody else wants me to. So I'm going to build my own thing and I'm going to just do it my own way. And I've always been very independent. I've always kind of broken the rules. Even growing up, like I never really asked my parents for permission to do anything because one, they weren't around much. And so I kind of didn't have to. I could just run off and do my own thing. But then also I was just so independently minded. I think maybe that's because I'm an uber Capricorn, or I don't know what I was in a past life, but I was probably just like some kind of headstrong rebel that just fuck shit up for everybody. And that kind of carried over into this life. And so a big part of it was independence. That was my motivation in the beginning. Like, nobody's going to tell me I can't do something. I'm going to do it. It was like a very, you say I can't, so I'm going to do it. Like you say I can't eat the Oreo, so I'm going to eat the Oreo kind of thing. But over time, it became something that I actually really loved. And it was initially a motivation of, I have to do this because I have to do this. And then over time, I realized, wow, this is so cool that I get to do this. It was, I can't believe I'm actually making money out of a natural skill that I have. I've always been a writer. I would collect journals and always carry around pens and note cards and things when I was a little kid. And so it just became this like, wow, this is super freaking cool. And then after I met my husband, and, we've been together 11 years now, and we moved to Texas. And now it's more like my motivation for the business is actually to bring both of our dreams to reality. And, he currently works for a corporation and there's a cap on how much he can earn. And he's been with that corporation for 20 years and he's still not even maxed out on his hourly rate. And so he's kind of in this place of, they don't value me. They don't appreciate me. I'm a cog in the machine. I'm just a number. I'm just here to, be a grunt worker and move things for them. And I hate that feeling. I want us to feel like we're building something that we care about. And within my line of work, because I did build my own business, there is no cap. Like the cap is just, what can I figure out? What kind of model can I design in my own head? And so now we have him in a very limited role, me in a limitless role. And so it's okay, naturally, we want to bring all of our energy into that limitless option and build the life that we want to within this thing that we are living and breathing and creating together.
Yeah. And that's actually, I want to touch on you and your husband because I know that you guys are starting to work more together. And I'm curious to know how you guys are able to separate your work relationship and your romantic relationship so well and, not want to tear each other's heads off at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's kind of interesting how Wes and I came to work together. It was probably about 2015, and he was just kind of kicking around the idea of leaving his corporate job. And one of the things that I really love to do with people on the Chiron side is help them figure out what they should do. So I kind of ask them all these questions. Sometimes I'll have them take personality tests, and I just kind of have a knack for looking at their brains and their personalities and going, you should be doing this. Maybe you should explore this, try this avenue and see if you like it. And if you like some things about it, but not other things, that'll steer us in a better direction. And so with Wes, I was like, you love to build things and you love to problem solve and you love for things to be very black and white. Like, he's not a subjective, creative kind of person. he is creative in the sense that he likes to build things, but he likes it to be
Mhm.
like, when you get a box of Legos and there's a picture on the cover,
Yeah.
or you get a set of connects and they're like, okay, attach this to this and this to this. And, he likes
Yeah,
the
very
mechanics of
step
it
by
all.
step. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, why don't you try website development? You don't have to know any design stuff. WordPress has been around since I've been on the internet, and I can teach you how to use WordPress. And then, he loves to watch YouTube videos and tutorials. And so I was like, why don't you try that? I think you might like that. Turns out he loved it. And so he started by building our new Cornell website back in the day. And then he built another one of my websites. And then he did one of our client websites. And that was huge for him because he's like, I don't want to fuck it up. Like, there's so much responsibility. This is one of your clients. I was like, you're going to do fine. And so he did it and he really enjoyed it. And just gradually over time, he became our website developer on the team. And then he got to know WordPress so well that I started handing off SEO stuff to him. And I started teaching him other things that I was doing that were more in that kind of black and white, very procedural kind of marketing arena, like SEO and email marketing setup and all that. So now he's our tech guy. He's our data and tech guy for websites, SEO, email marketing, all that stuff. And he's great at it. Now he even does our podcast production because he gets to assemble the podcast. I give him the pieces and he puts it all together. And so it's been a very gradual process, which I think was really nice. It wasn't like he lost his job and we were like, oh shit, what do we do? And then we like threw him in and gave him all this responsibility. It was a very gradual process of him learning what he enjoyed, what he didn't. And because of that, we got to kind of figure out what it was like to work together. And when he was just doing a few projects, one off here and there, it was a lot easier. But now he's working with, I think, every single one of our clients, and he's taking on so much responsibility that at the end of this year, he's actually going to retire from his corporate job and he's going to come work full-time. Well, I say full-time, probably like 25 hours a week in Cornell. And he's going to be our guy for all of these things that we do for our clients. And we have enough work, luckily, to the point where we can replace his income from his day job. And so with that kind of on the horizon, which we're both super excited about, but we've had to start having these conversations. Like, I will work a full day and then he'll come home from his day job and he wants to talk about the work that we're doing together. And I'm like, honey, I have been working 8 or 9 hours. I've been on meetings with people all day. I don't want to talk about work anymore. And so we've come up with this system where we don't talk about work after 6 p.m. And so he's learning a lot of things right now. He's taken over our accounting management and a few other things. And he likes to have me go into his office and look over his shoulder and be like, am I doing this right? And I've trained a lot of people on the team, over 100 people on the team over the years. We don't have a team of 100 right now, but people come and go. And so I've learned a bit about how to train people. And if you're a crutch for them for too long, they never really learn what they need to learn. They have to kind of have the confidence to do it. Even if they mess it up, they have to realize that they messed up and then know exactly what they did wrong. And you got to do it. You got to get your hands in it. And so I came up with this system where we have tokens. And at the start of each day, and we did this because he had a week off from vacation from his day job a couple of weeks ago. And he was calling me into his office like every 2 minutes. And I'm like, I gotta fucking get this shit done. Like, stop calling me in there. And so we came up with a token system where at the start of the day, he has 3 tokens, I have 2. And if he calls me into his office, he has to give me a token. And if he runs out of tokens, he doesn't get to call me into his office anymore. But if I call him into my office, I have to give him a token. And so we just kind of have this exchange and it kind of lets things balance out. And he starts with 3 because he's still learning. And so he's going to ask me more questions. But so you kind of have to figure out systems like that. And both of us want the same thing, which is nice. We both want to enjoy our time together. We both want to work together, but we also don't want it all to be about work. And so we have to, anytime we have to have a conversation about this, we first come together on that agreement. Like, hey, if we want this to work, we don't want it to be all about work. And so I'm noticing this problem when we're talking about client stuff at 10 o'clock at night and I'm ready to go to bed, my mind's going to explode. So how do we fix that? And then we kind of come up with a solution together.
That's awesome that you guys have found that. That's a really clever way, I think, too, to be able to like limit the amount of work talk and how many times he can ask you questions and come into your office. I know with you and I, we work so closely together that we communicate on Voxer, and sometimes if we were to have offices next to each other, some days I feel like we wouldn't get any work done.
I
So
think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, so we would have to do that too, the token thing. That's so funny. So how did you guys end up in Texas? Did you guys move there together?
Yeah. So we met in August of 2011. And by the end of 2013, we had decided that I guess it was a very quick and almost implied decision where we were still dating. We weren't married yet. We didn't get married until we had been together for 7 years. And Wes found out that his mom's cancer had come back. And this was like the fourth time that it had come back. And so we're like, well, shit, like nobody survives cancer 4 times. I mean, we don't know how much time she has. And so it was a very quick and easy decision that Wes should move out to Texas to be closer to her and spend more time with her. And we were living in San Diego at the time. And it was one of those things where, we were still boyfriend, girlfriend. And I think if I remember right, I kind of just like looked at him and I'm like, so am I coming with you? Like, I was so scared to ask that question and I didn't want him to think I was like assuming. And then he goes, of course you're coming with me. I was like, okay, good. Okay. So we're staying together. We're moving to Texas together. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And like, that was very in line with my personality. I mean, I'm one of those people who I'm just like, I want to do something and I just do it. It just happens. It just ends up coming to be. And so as soon as we made that decision together, which was very quick and natural, it happened. And I think we made this decision in November of 2013. And by December 31st, we were in Texas. Wow. So yeah. And
That's
then
quick.
Bought a house together in April of 2014 and then didn't get married until May of 2018.
Wow.
It's very unconventional. My grandparents were mortified on all counts.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Do you guys, and you guys are not planning on staying in Texas though, right? You want to get out of there? Yeah.
We're pretty much here. His mom is still with us, thank goodness. I think having her son near her made a huge difference in just her morale and her fight and her drive to beat cancer. And she's still dealing with it. She's still going through cancer treatments and things like that. But
oh my goodness.
While his parents are here and with us, we're going to stay in Texas. But also, we have to be realistic and know that that's likely not going to be forever. So when the time comes, and we're not in any hurry, but when the time comes, we do want to move to like South Dakota or Montana. Wes says, Wyoming or Idaho, but I'm like, no, South Dakota or Montana.
It sounds like you guys are just trying to get away from the heat with the states that you're thinking about going to.
Seriously. And we miss trees here.
Right.
Wes likes to say you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. It's just so flat here that it's just, there's nothing, there's no terrain. And we didn't realize how much nature and scenery and just pine trees in general make us so happy until we went to Ruidoso, which is this little mountain town about 5 hours west of us. Because around Lubbock where we live, there's nothing. You have to drive either 5 hours in one direction or 6 hours in the other direction or 3 hours in the other direction to get to anything. And so we went to Ruidoso, and it's a mountain town in New Mexico. It's beautiful. We went in November for his birthday, and we were just like, God, the trees, the river, the leaves falling. This is what we want all the time. And it was then that we decided, we need to move somewhere that has trees. We've kind of been putting up with the lack of scenery in Lubbock, but when the time is right, we definitely need to move somewhere that makes us feel this like heart singing joy that you just don't get from anything other than just being in nature.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm in Oregon right now, and the summers are unreal, like beautiful, the blue skies and the trees like everywhere, that when you're floating on the river, you look up and you're like, is this a painting? It's just gorgeous. But you forget about it in the 9 months of rain season in the winter. So but yeah, the summers they'll keep you here because they are just it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't believe in settling. I do believe that you can have everything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's why we've been kind of scouting places, and we're visiting places in the dead of winter. Like we went to Montana in February when it was like -7 during the day and, -30 something at night, and loved it. We absolutely loved it. I absolutely love the cold. And so we're going to go there in the summer next year to see what it's like in the worst heat and see if we like it so that we can find the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, Montana is really nice too. I've been there. That's kind of on my list also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, so you kind of talked about it a little bit with how you work with Wes, but what kind of advice would you give somebody that's looking for like a work-life balance when they're freelancing? A lot of times I know from personal experience, I don't have an office space. So my home space is my office space. And it's definitely hard to like draw that line from, okay, this is the end of the workday and this is the start of my evening, like my time with my family, which is my boyfriend and my dogs.
Yeah.
But so what advice would you give to somebody who's struggling with finding that work-life balance?
That's a really good question. And when you're a freelancer, when you're self-employed, it's really difficult because, like you said, your kitchen may be your kitchen, it may be your dining room, and it may also be your office. And
Mhm.
so it's much harder to draw that line. And so, what I've found that works really well for myself and for a lot of the clients that I work with at Chiron is getting very deliberate and intentional about your schedule. So, there are a few things with that. One is we often think as freelancers, oh, I should wake up, make coffee, and get to my desk. Says who? That's what the corporate W-2 world says that you should do. That's not what we're meant to do. You are not meant to work. You are meant to live. You are meant to be happy. You are meant to spread joy. You are meant to fulfill a purpose. Your work might just be how you do that purpose. And
Mhm.
so if you start your day with that work, 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 work mentality, then you're losing the things that really make you happy and that make your life what it's meant to be. And so, what I tell people is to track their energy throughout the day. Where do you have peaks of energy? Where do you have valleys? You may have one peak, you may have seven. You may be like a little bunny rabbit where you need to do bursts of work and then take a nap, and then bursts of work and then
Mhm.
take a nap. But figure out what your natural energy pattern is and then prioritize things. What is most important to you? For most of us, it's not work, it's our health,
Mhm.
it's our relationships, it's getting some sunshine on our face. Put those at the peaks in your schedule where if you need energy in order to do these things that are important to you, put those things at the peaks in your natural energy pattern throughout the day. If
Mhm.
you don't need energy and these things actually give you energy, put them in the valleys.
Mhm.
Understand your own natural energy pattern, prioritize what needs to go into your schedule, and then put them in that order. Usually things like work and client meetings are like 3, 4, 5 on the list. And so once you've slotted in the things that are most important to you, then you can slot in the work stuff. And again, think about, how does your work drain you? How does it energize you? I only take calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays because as much as I enjoy meeting with my clients and they're very productive calls, and I like my call days, calls drain me. I'm very
Mhm.
introverted. And so I've learned I have to block them, because even if I have just one or two calls on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, my whole day is thrown off. So, and that's just my energy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how I am. So you have to understand how you are and then design a schedule that suits that energy pattern. And naturally, what happens when you do that is you are then prioritizing things that are not work. You have designated spots for work, and then you have free time where you can just do your own thing. You can just be you. You can go swimming, go for a hike, learn violin, whatever you want. And then your work life becomes very naturally balanced because you're basing it on how you naturally operate, as opposed to forcing yourself to wake up at 5 a.m. and do this miracle morning routine that you read about in a blog post online somewhere.
Yeah, I love that. I have definitely been victim to the I need to wake up at 4 a.m. to have a successful life mentality. And that's just, I am not a morning person. I've never been. So
Yeah, there's
I
nothing wrong with
actually,
that.
yeah, yeah. And I learned through your workshop, which is kind of what you're talking about right now, and finding your the right times based on your energy to do your work and stuff like that, through your energy aligned success schedule workshop, which really did help me realize, okay, I am definitely way more productive at between 10 and noon instead of at 6, from 6 to 8, so that's when I want to do my work. It it was really nice to have somebody tell you, you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
to be successful. You just don't. And so if your body is telling you not to, then don't force it, because you're going to be less productive ultimately if you try and
exactly.
fit into someone else's schedule. So,
Exactly. And efficiency and productivity, it's when you're your own boss, it's less about how can I get more work out of this employee without paying
mhm,
them more, which that's what it is in the corporate world, right? They talk about productivity.
yeah,
It's like, how do we get more for less? But when you're your own boss and when you're building your own business, it's how can I get more enjoyment out of my day by doing more in less time so that
mhm,
my workday doesn't stretch into 10 hours? And
mhm,
usually, work days will stretch into 10 hours because either you give them 10 hours and you say, oh, I have 10 hours to do this work. And so it's going to take you 10 hours instead of saying, I have 3 hours to do this work. You will get it done in 3 hours. I guarantee it.
mhm. Yeah.
And also making yourself work when you don't feel like it. If you
Mhm,
are feeling like, man, I just wish I could go outside and just dip my feet in the pool and just be outside for a bit, then go do that. Because by the time you're ready to come back in and sit down and do some work, you're going to be way more productive than if you had sat there and forced yourself to
mhm.
grind out whatever blog post or design or VA work that you're doing.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we have lots more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back and get into some more fun topics with you, Ray.
Hey, this is Ray. Ready to build a business that supports a life you love, a life you've always dreamed of? It's time to stop passively dealing with what's right in front of you and start deliberately designing your own future. That's exactly what we do in private business mentoring. You and I work together to create a completely custom to you business model that gives you everything you want and need while protecting you from stress and burnout. Ready to get started? Go to chironconsulting.us/mentoring to learn more. There you can also book a free call with me so we can start getting to know each other and see if mentoring is right for you. Plus, I love working with early stage entrepreneurs. That's why my mentoring packages are priced so low. I want you to soar. So don't worry about having to shell out thousands of dollars. Not here. Just go to chironconsulting.us/mentoring to learn more.
And we're back with Ray, Hyde, Cornell, and we're going to talk about something that you have done in the past that is really cool. And I'm really excited that you're going to share this with your listeners. You have donated your eggs in the past and helped families, or helped people start their families. And are you comfortable with sharing when and why you decided you wanted to do that?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. I think it's pretty cool too. It's probably one of the coolest things that I've ever gotten to do. I feel so lucky that I got to do it because they put you through some rigorous screening processes. And
Mhm.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to, especially because I have had PTSD and depression and stuff like that. And so luckily I did pass all of the tests, all of the genetic screenings, all of the psychological screenings, all of the IQ screenings, all of that. I initially looked into doing egg donation because a girlfriend of mine in college, we were talking about how I think we were just joking around one day and we were like, girls are so much better than boys. And she brought up like sperm donation versus egg donation and how boys get like $50 and girls get like $5,000. And I was like, what? Like girls get $5,000 for donating their eggs? I was like, what? And of course I was, the starving student would just,
Right.
scraping by, being a freelance writer, writing blog posts for like $25 a piece. I was nuts. And so I started looking into it. And so it was initially like financially driven. And I went to a fertility clinic to do one of the interviews. And that's when everything changed for me. I was like, the financial reward brought me there, but I saw this couple, this gorgeous young couple. They were probably in their mid to late 20s. And the woman was crying, and the husband was sitting next to her, just trying to be as supportive as he could, but obviously not knowing the words. I didn't know what their situation was. I didn't know if he couldn't have babies, she couldn't have babies, they both couldn't have babies, if they had had a miscarriage. I have no idea what the situation was, but just seeing how much, and I could feel it, like it like hit my body. I could feel how badly they wanted a child. And, you know, as someone who grew up being told that everything that was wrong in my mom's life was my fault, and my dad got a vasectomy without telling my mom wanted more kids, my dad didn't. And so there was just a lot of conflict over children in my household. And to see that dichotomy, seeing my parents who are like, I don't want kids, or kids are the reason for all the bad things in our lives. And then seeing this other couple who was like so desperate, they just wanted children so badly. I was like, those are the people who are meant to be having kids. Those are the people who should be having all the babies and raising amazing kids. And so then it became a no-brainer. I'm like, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do. Like, how do we make this happen? And so I went through all the hoops, and I took all the tests, and I met with all the counselors and all the things. And I got accepted to a couple different matching agencies. And over the years, like, see, that was in about, I started looking into it in undergrad, but I actually didn't do my first donation until we had moved to Texas. So it was about 2015 when I did my first donation. And I've donated to couples in states all around the country, worked with many different agencies, and it is by far one of the most rewarding things I've ever gotten to do, because for a lot of the donations, I don't know what happened of my donations. It was kept closed, anonymous. I have no rights to know anything that happened as a product of my donations. But for two, I did get to find out that they had healthy, happy babies. And for one of the couples that I donated to, their family is now complete. And they send me Christmas cards and send photos and updates. And it's just, even though I don't know what happened with the others, even just knowing what's going on in that one family has made it so rewarding that I am dealing with some medical ramifications now, because as an egg donor, you have to inject all kinds of medications. Usually it's anywhere from 2 to 4 shots into your abdomen a day. And that goes on for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks in order to do egg retrieval. And so now I'm dealing with some kind of like hormonal problems because of it, but it's all worth it, because I get to see the ramifications and see this family that so desperately wanted children have kids.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I was going to ask, because I know that there's a reason why the egg donations, you're paid a lot more than sperm donations, because it is way more invasive. And but that's incredible that you are able to see the joy that you've brought to other families because you've decided to donate.
Yeah,
That's just such an incredible story.
It makes it all worth it. And funny thing, which you know this, the universe tends to kind of make things happen in a circular way. We recently landed a client at Cornell because of my egg donation, where I'm very involved in the subscription industry. And there was a woman who posted a question about her subscription box, and I answered it. Actually, I think she was looking for a designer, and I think I connected her with you. And then I started learning more about what her subscription box is. And she does a subscription box that intended parents can purchase for their surrogates to help the surrogate have an easier, more comfortable pregnancy. And I was like, that's the coolest thing. And so she and I started, I think maybe either she asked you about writing, or she asked a web developer that I recommended her to about writing, and whoever it was sent her back to me saying, hey, well, Ray, the person that connected us, she does writing. And so that client came back to me and she goes, hey, I hear you do content creation and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah. And so we hopped on a call, and our call was supposed to be 20 minutes. It turned into almost an hour, because we were talking about the experience of being an egg donor. And she's been an egg donor. She's also been a surrogate. And it's something that not a lot of people can understand unless you've actually been through it, not just the physical part of it, the injections, the surgery, the, going under anesthesia, the coming out of it, the way your body rebounds from, this kind of shock to your system, all of that, but also the emotional side of it,
Right.
actually giving your genetic material away and what that
Mhm.
means. And what if the intended parents don't want a relationship, like in the case of 5 of my donations? And what if they do in the case of 1 of my donations? Like, it's just so complex. And so we really hit it off. And it turns out that we were just a great fit to work together. And so now something that I did in my personal life
Mhm.
has come full circle to the point where this one client, she's a huge client for us. She has 6 brands and we write for all of them. And so it's funny how when you do something that you feel like you're meant to do, that your gut is just pulling you towards, even if something maybe doesn't go as planned, or, in my case,
Mhm.
dealing with some medical ramifications from it, there's kind of this like karmic payback that happens
Right.
for good or for bad. And in my case, it's been wonderful. And so I'm just like, it's just funny how you try to keep business and personal life separate, but sometimes the universe is just like, nope, these are meant to be intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy how it works. Um, yeah, just amazing what you've done and what has come out of it, and the fact that you found a client through that journey in your life, and you guys have been able to, I'm sure, build some sort of relationship, even more than just a work relationship, because you've experienced similar things. That's
Yeah. And those are really
awesome.
the best client relationships. I mean,
Right.
whether it's like you design for my companies and we really get each other because we're doing the
Mhm.
same thing. We're building the same sort of independent life. And we even want to move to the same state in the future and things like that.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, where like my situation with the woman who owns the fertility agency and the surrogates subscription box, we have that personal connection, and that just makes it so much easier to work together. It's almost like when you hop on a call with that person, you go, like, it's just
Yeah.
easy. It's just
Yeah.
nicer, as opposed to someone who you don't know that you're on the same page as them, and you kind of have to almost force yourself into a box
Mhm.
to check their boxes and make them hire you. And,
Yeah.
it's just when you can find those people who share your same values or share experiences or have something on a deeper level in common, it just makes it so much easier to work together and so much more
Yeah.
fulfilling.
Yeah, totally. I can definitely agree with that because I've experienced both, where you just kind of have to keep your business face on just constantly with one of your clients, and then you have another client that you feel like you've got more of a friendship with, and it's
Yeah,
just way easier to work with
exactly. And
them.
over time, my goal is to get to the point where, and actually we're pretty close to there. I think I'm closing up a few projects that are very businessy. But everyone else that we work with right now, it is that friendship relationship. I mean, I have clients who text me pictures of their cats. I have clients
Mhm.
who I text South Park jokes with. I have clients who just call me out of the blue and they're like, did you see this shit on the news? And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, we have that friendship, which makes it
Yeah,
way nicer, and it makes your work far less stressful.
yeah,
And it does blur the work-life balance line that you asked about before, but at the same time, you kind of don't mind because it lightens everything.
well, and freelancing can get so lonely because
Mhm.
you're working alone constantly. So when you can build those friendships with your clients, it makes it feel a little less lonely.
Totally. Yeah. And you feel like the work you're doing is not just transactional. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, this person needs a logo or this person needs a blog post. I write the blog post, I deliver it, we're done, the invoice is paid.
Mhm.
It's more like you're valued. Like
Mhm.
one of my clients, they've been looping me on sales conversations lately. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why am I here? But it's cool because they'll introduce me as, the person on our team who makes everything sound good. And it's like you get to perceive this different appreciation for the work that you do. And that is, in my opinion, even more valuable than having the invoice paid, is having your
Yeah.
work appreciated.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree with that. Um, excuse me, sorry. So I know we talked about you helping other families, but you have a new family of your own, a little family of chickens.
Yes, we
uh,
do.
how's that going for you?
Oh, it's wonderful. They are. I never thought chickens had such personality. And like before we got the chickens, Wes and I were talking, practicalities. We're like, okay, we're going to get 9 hens for their eggs. And then, when they get older and they stop laying eggs, we'll kill them and eat them. I mean, that's like circle of
Hmm.
life, right? We can't do that anymore. They have
No.
names. They have
Yeah.
names, they have personalities. We have like ones that really like to be pet and that will come over and they'll just kind of like nestle into Wes's hands. And he's got these like big
Oh,
warm hands and they'll just kind of like cluck and coo and just sit there while he pets them. And it's just like, oh my God, we cannot eat these things. We're going to have
yeah.
when they die, eventually we're going to have like a little chicken graveyard and each one's going to have a
Yeah.
headstone and we're going to put flowers on them every day. And we fucking love these things. It's ridiculous, but it's wonderful. We ordered 9, we ended up with 12. And one of our 12 hens turned out to be a rooster. So we have this perfect little flock of 11 hens and 1 rooster, and he's a total asshole. He's fantastic.
Yeah,
He
they all
protects
are.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm learning that because I knew nothing about chickens when we decided to do this. But a friend of mine in Australia had a rooster called Roger, and she would be like, Roger bit me today, and he's such a dick. And I'm like, and at the time, my rooster was still this fluffy little ball I could hold in my
Yeah.
hand. And so yeah, now I understand he's an asshole, but we love him and we have ways to win him over and
Yeah.
things like that. So it's going great. We're so
That's
happy.
awesome. That's so awesome. What else do you like to do in your downtime when you're not taking care of your chickens? Or I know you have a dog that you spend some time with too. What else do you like to do?
Oh man, downtime. It's weird because I guess if I really think it's hard for me to figure out what downtime is because like I said before, I kind of just follow my energy. And so if
Hmm.
I feel like working, then I feel like working, and if
Hmm.
I feel like cleaning the pool, then I feel like cleaning the pool and I do that. I guess when I am not kind of like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm always inclined to be very productive.
Right.
I feel like I always have to be doing something. It's
Right.
just, what am I doing? Is it work related or is it not? And so to me,
How about,
downtime is like not doing productive things,
yeah, yeah,
So
like watching South Park?
yes, exactly. Watching South Park. I am learning violin. I don't practice nearly as much as I should. I hope my violin instructor, Rachel, doesn't listen to this because I do not practice every day, but I need to. So I'm learning violin. We're pretty much always doing work projects around the house. Like we're building our chicken run. We're building this little tunnel for them to go from the run into the free range side of our yard and just random things like Wes is building me a bookcase. I'll help him with that. And I think, yeah, downtime, I probably just watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm
Just,
normal. I'm boring. I'm a
yeah.
human.
Yeah. Well, you also have, you like to go, you train, right? For, you do, boxing, or what was that that you do for your,
Yeah.
morning routines, your workouts?
So for a long time, I was going to an MMA gym here for a while. I haven't been for several months because I've been kind of dealing with these hormone fluctuations, which just have me sapped with energy.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing more like every morning I meet with a personal trainer and it's less like a workout and it's more like
Hmm.
a physical therapy kind of thing to
Yeah.
strengthen smaller muscles and work on balance and work on, I have a thing where I get this like pinched nerve in my low back. And so he's helping me like strengthen the muscles around it so that that doesn't happen and all of that sort of thing. But I'm really hoping I'm doing some medical stuff this fall. And then I'm hoping that I can pick up the MMA training again in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool though that you've done that. And, I feel like a lot of times we do find that we fall out of our hobbies that we've loved because of physical reasons. Or I know for a while I was training at the gym and then I hurt my shoulder and I couldn't do it for a couple weeks, and it was frustrating and I felt defeated. but at the same time, we have to kind of ebb and flow with what our body is telling us.
Yeah,
So that's awesome that
exactly.
you continue going and you're doing the more like the physical therapy stuff, and eventually you're going to get back into the MMA. But
Yeah, it's a big hit to your ego, right? It's like, ah,
yeah,
shit, like I should just be able to power through this injury. Or I shouldn't be such a baby. I should just do it anyway.
yeah,
I should push myself. Or, I grew up playing soccer on an all boys team for the time I was 5 until I was like 16. And so I kind of had that drilled into me of like, be tough,
hmm
but you can't do that your whole life. That's when you're in survival mode. That's when you're in like fight or flight mode constantly. Your body doesn't know the
right,
difference. And so it's been a real adjustment and something that I've had to learn to kind of pull back the ego a little bit and be like,
yeah,
it's okay if I don't run a mile or 3 miles or 5 miles or whatever every day. It's okay if I don't, train super hard and come home with, bruised knuckles. Like it's okay.
yeah, yeah.
It's okay
It's
if I
okay.
just
Yeah,
do something light that my body needs and,
mhm.
you know, put that ego in check in the corner a little bit.
Yeah, totally, totally. I agree. Okay, so we're going to get to a really important question. I know everybody is wondering what this answer is.
Uh-oh.
It's the question that everybody is dying to know about you. What's your favorite Netflix show right now?
Oh man, you really went there. Oh man. Okay, so I go through Netflix shows pretty quickly. So I'm gonna list a
Uh-huh.
few because that's kind of how I wind down at night. I will watch like
Okay.
3 or 4 episodes in bed, or depending on the length, maybe 2. Um, right now we're watching Skinwalker Ranch, which
Okay.
is like super weird. It's like about this place in Utah where all this like paranormal activity stuff happens. And then it starts getting really sciencey. I love the science stuff. Like I'm totally woo woo and fifth dimension shit. I know that exists and all that, but it like gets into the science of like magnetism and gravity and microwaves and gamma rays and all this stuff. And I just think it's fascinating. So we've been watching that. But if we had to talk about like guilty pleasure stuff,
hmm
I am embarrassed to say, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I love the Vampire Diaries and all the spinoffs.
Yes.
I watched Originals. I watched Legacy. I'm really hoping they come out with another season of Legacy. I've watched it all. And
I'm so glad I'm not the only one. I love Vampire Diaries. I actually would joke with my sisters because I can't remember the other one. Oh, Teen Wolf, the show
oh,
came
I haven't
out
seen
around
that
this.
one. It
Neither
did
have
though. It
I.
came out around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, around the same time. And my family was all into Teen Wolf, and I was just obsessed with Vampire Diaries. And they had it on one night, and I was sitting there watching Teen Wolf. I was like, that's not right. They should know that that would never happen to a werewolf because I'm like just basing it off of the Vampire Diaries. And yeah, I was obsessed with that show. I have been actually thinking about rewatching it myself.
I mean, as far as teen dramas go, like it is
Yeah,
so well done.
good.
It's like just enough balance of like romance, but not to be cheesy. Cause I'm not like,
Yeah,
I won't watch rom-coms and stuff like that. Like I don't watch, chick flicks and things. I don't like that stuff. But there's like just enough balance to where it's like intriguing and like
yeah,
sultry and, mysterious and mystical.
yeah.
And it's just so well done. I love it.
Oh, that's so awesome. Um, well, this has been so fun. I really, really enjoyed being the host of your podcast for this podcast takeover. Before we leave, is there anything exciting, any events coming up for Kyron or even Cornell, or anywhere that people could keep themselves updated on the events that are coming up?
Yeah, so in Q3, we actually took a bit of a break from our usual workshops on the Chiron side because we have been just working double time to get our Cornell course, our Content Creators
Mhm.
Bootcamp done and beta tested, and you've been all doing all the gorgeous designs for it and everything. And so we've been a bit on hiatus for events as those go, but we will be doing the Q4 planning workshop at the end of September, and then in October, we are going to do the Self-Employed Creatives Business Plan. In November, we're going to be doing Price Yourself Perfectly, which is a really, really important workshop for every writer to do, not just writers, but any freelancer to do, because everyone seems to underprice themselves. And then probably one of my favorite events is in December, we're doing the Business Building Week for woo-woo entrepreneurs. And it's a 5-day event where we actually meet live and walk you through super deep dive business building practices and exercises. We also do some manifestation work, journaling, meditation, all of these important things that all tie together how I've gotten to the point to build these businesses and be our household's sole financial provider. So really excited for the Q4 events coming up.
Awesome. Me too. I will be at every single one. So hopefully we'll see all the listeners there.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, this was so fun. Thank you so much,
you.
Ray, for having me and letting me do a podcast takeover.
Thanks for taking over the show, Chelsea. You did a great job. Thank you. Hey, Ray here again. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and rate us in your favorite podcasting platform. Want to be a guest on the show or know someone who has an amazing story of entrepreneurship? Apply on our website at chironconsulting.us/podcast.